What's up, guys? Welcome back to Huddle to Hardwood. And now we are moving on to the Midwest region. So we can go ahead with our predictions just like the last couple of videos. But Jacob, I'll move it to you to, start listing off the games that we have going here.
Yeah, so our first game we got right here would be Michigan versus what it looks to be Howard right now, who's winning 77 to 67. So who do we think is going to win that game?
Yeah, I was kind of pulling for UMBC just because, they're one of the two ever 16 seeds to upset the one. So I was kind of hoping UMBC would slide in there and then it would make for an amazing story for our Michigan State fans for UMBC to do it again. But I don't think that would happen regardless, and it's not going to happen with Howard either. Michigan's just too dominant. So I mean, I don't got to talk about it too much.
I
Michigan.
think Howard's going to win.
Mm. Is that your final prediction for that
No,
game?
yeah, they're probably going to win.
Darn.
All right, moving on to Georgia and St. Louis.
Yeah, this one's a interesting game. Uh, I'm initially gonna go with St. Louis here. It might be something I go back and forth with. Definitely something I'll change up on a few of my different brackets. But for this one, we'll say St. Louis. This one's got an interesting story because if you guys don't remember, they're one of their best players. His name is Robbie Avila. He's the big man down low who can stretch the floor, and he's got goggles on. He played at Indiana State a few years ago, and I actually saw them play in person. Against Michigan State the year that they just barely missed out in the NCAA tournament, made the NIT. He followed his coach from Indiana State to St. Louis, and now they're a pretty good team over there in the A10. They're struggling down the stretch a little bit. They dropped a couple of games that they shouldn't have down the stretch and ended up losing their conference tournament. But I still think they're a solid team all around, and I would take them over Georgia in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna take St. Louis as well. Um, Georgia and St. Louis both won six of the last 10. The main reason I'm gonna pick St. Louis could be the same reason that they lose. But one thing I find very intriguing about this team is that they are averaging 40% from the three-point line for the season.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy to me. That number right there has like upsets written all over it because teams that tend to have those crazy upset wins tend to be teams that shoot the lights out. And this team could either, I think this team has the potential to do such things, but they also, you live and die by the three. So they could very easily have a off shooting night and get blown out first rounds.
Robbie Avila is going to cook up Morez Johnson and a Daymar in the next round. I can feel it.
Yeah, I mean, but the fact that they've maintained 40% as a team from the three-point line for the season's pretty crazy. Um, yeah, moving on to Texas Tech and Akron.
So yeah, Texas Tech is a hard team for me to figure out, especially for picking them to win games in the tournament. Just without lose or with losing JT Toppin, even losing him this year. I don't know if you saw, but the AP All American teams came out and he was still on the first team. He was on the AP All American first team, which the time that he was playing, he deserved it. I mean, he was one of the best players in the country. He was like a walking 25 and the 25-point double double pretty much. He was dominant. He was a dominant force, and him and Christian Anderson together were awesome. But now without him and tearing his ACL, it's just been all on Christian Anderson's plate. Christian Anderson's still a great guard, and he's had great games to pull Texas Tech to some wins here down the stretch. But they've also dropped some games lately, so it's kind of hard to read them. But then Akron, I think they're like talent wise, the records don't say so, but I think Akron it was the better team out of the MAC conference. They won the MAC conference tournament. Yes, they didn't go undefeated, but I think metrically and just with the players on their team, and they also ended up actually playing somewhat decent teams in their non-con, which contributed to the more losses that they had on the schedule. But with all that being said, just with the unknowns of Texas Tech, and I haven't picked a 12-5 upset yet, and I went to a MAC school, fire up chips. I'm going to go with the Akron Zips here to take the W against Texas Tech to move on to the second round.
Yeah, so this game I've been flipping in my head back and forth. Um, Texas Tech is just such a tough team to read because I mean they definitely have some talent on their roster, but they're just not the same team without JT Toppin. And I do have Akron at the moment playing them, but I don't know. I'm just up in the air. So
Yeah.
right now I do have Akron and yeah, man. I have Akron right now, which is kind of tough for my next pick as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, we can move on to Alabama and Hofstra.
Hofstra. Yeah, now there's different circumstances for this one now. I don't if you guys haven't heard about the whole situation going on with Alabama's Aiden Holloway. He's kind of unknown to play right now because he's been arrested for, marijuana charges. So let's just say that. And we don't know if he's going to be available for the first round game or the tournament in general. So I mean, they still have a lot of good players on their team. LeBaron Philon is more than capable of pulling the weight without Aiden Holloway. He's one of the better guards in the country. He's a very good player. Um, but I mean, it remains to be seen if, like I said, Aiden Holloway is going to be there or not. Whether he's not there for the first round or second round, we'll find out. That might be something that we'll have to assess before submitting our brackets at the end. But still, with that being said, I think just Alabama and the rest of their team is enough with LeBaron Philon to at least get past the first round against Hofstra. So I think we'll have them winning there regardless. But
Yeah, this one's tough too because the recent news that went out. And even I'm not even gonna look at it as like a talent aspect. I'm gonna look at it from a different perspective. I'm gonna look at it through the lens of like distraction. That's a lot to have going on in the locker room. There's a lot of things, a
yeah,
lot of media asking coaches questions, players questions, everything on college basketball. Twitter's been talking about it. And this team very well could lose to uh, Hofstra in the first round just purely based off of distractions and players not having their heads in the right space. Because you got to remember, too, they're not only players, they're friends outside of the court. So this is one of their good friends going through some tough times, whether it was self-inflicted or not. It's still gonna be tough for that young guy to go through. So I am I'm gonna go with Alabama at the moment. I read that he probably won't suit up for the game on Friday. I don't know what happens if they win and then they go to play on Sunday. If he ends up being able to play on Sunday, I'll probably change some stuff around a little bit. But I'm gonna go for Bama right now, but don't be
did
surprised if they lose.
did it say that he just wasn't suiting up? Like, did it say he was traveling with the team or not?
I don't think he's traveling with the team.
Because I think that makes a huge difference too. Because if he's not traveling with the team, it makes it hard if they win the first round game for him to make like a 2 day, 1 day turnaround to then travel by himself to come play for the Sunday game. So I feel like if he's out for the first game, he'll be out for the second one as well. I feel like that's pretty likely.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but I know that Bama was kind of playing pretty well at the end of the season.
Yeah. Like I said, they got LeBaron Philon, who's like an all American capable player. I think he might have made the second or third team. So
Yeah, like they've won 8 of their last 10 games, with their losses coming to Ole Miss by one, which Ole Miss, if you missed it,
tried to
went
pull
on
an
a
NC State.
crazy run in the SEC tournament. And then they lost to Georgia by 10, which Georgia's a tournament team in the same bracket as them. Also could be considered a rivalry game. But yeah, they also, I mean, the last couple of games, I mean, their best win is against Arkansas. They won by two. But other than that, they didn't really play anyone. I mean, they beat Tennessee by two. But yeah, I don't know. Definitely a weird matchup.
Injuries and uh, arrest problems are making this side of the bracket very hard to predict. And especially, it's like we want to pair someone up against Michigan who will give them a challenge, but it's like there's just, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah. But anyways, moving on to Tennessee versus either Miami of Ohio or SMU.
So, yeah, we'll start with, like we did for the last play in, who you think will win against SMU and Miami, Ohio. Um, tough. It's hard for me to choose because this would be Miami of Ohio's first quad one game of the season. So, it's really hard to say that they'll just go 1-0. I know SMU played in a weaker conference in the ACC, but they have a really good guard on their team. His name's Boopy Miller, which
Boopy?
huh?
His name's Boopy.
Yeah, and fun fact, you might not know this because you weren't at CMU during this time, but my freshman year, he was our starting point guard for our basketball team, and then he transferred to Wake Forest, I believe, and then he transferred to SMU. So he's a former Chippewa. Um, so he's probably played Miami of Ohio before. Anyways, go on a tangent. Uh, I just don't know if I don't know if Miami of Ohio is as good as their record shows. To be honest, like I said earlier, I think Akron was the better of the two teams, um, and I just have a hard time with how close of all their games were in the MAC this year. It was impressive that they won their games, but I don't think they're going to beat a Power Four opponent. So I'm going to take SMU there, and then regardless of who wins there, I'm going Tennessee over one of those teams. Tennessee's not playing the greatest right now. They've been inconsistent all year, but I think they have enough talent on their team with Colin Gillespie or Jacoby Gillespie, sorry. And they have a 5-star freshman on their team, Nate Ament, who are like their 1-2 punch, and I like them over either SMU or Miami, Ohio.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be a believer. I'm gonna choose Miami of Ohio, and I know you said you liked Akron. You think Akron's better than Miami, and I'm gonna have to disagree because I mean they did face each other head to
Yeah,
head. So and Miami did win. They won 76-73 in their one matchup they met this year. So I mean, like it's hard to tell with Miami and like try to make like a case like oh like against Auburn or
yeah.
against
We
whoever
have literally
because
no
it
idea.
yeah, it's hard to tell, but like I mean, they played Akron and they beat them. So but I'm gonna be a believer. I'm gonna say Miami of Ohio is gonna beat SMU to go dancing with Tennessee. But with that being said, I think Tennessee's gonna win.
Believer for that playing game, but other than that,
Yeah, I'm a believer for the playing game, but other than that, I don't think they'll make it out first round.
it was a great regular season Cinderella. It was fun to follow, but I just I don't think they have what it takes to move
Yeah.
on. Unfortunately,
I just think like having them go undefeated, they deserve a spot in
yeah,
the dance. And I think being in the first four is kind of disrespectful to them just because 31-0 is tough to do no matter what level of basketball you are, whether it's high school, middle school, college, professional, undefeated is extremely hard to go through regardless of competition. And I think if they lose this matchup, it'll set a bad precedent to future teams because then this committee is going to look at future undefeated mid-major teams and maybe not even give them a first four bid if they don't win the tournament. So I'm really pulling for Miami. I really hope they pull it out for the future of other mid-major teams. But
yeah.
yeah. So I guess moving on from that, we'll go Virginia and Wright State.
Yeah, don't want to touch on this game too much. Don't really know anything about Wright State, and I don't have another monitor to pull up the stats next to me. So, Virginia is a solid team, second place in the ACC. They lost in the ACC championship to Duke. Duke was without two starters in that game, so we'll see um, how valid that was. But they've been consistent all year with beating teams, but I just don't know really how much I can trust them and how good of a team they actually are. But we'll take them to advance to the next round.
Yeah, it's really tough to for me to gauge how good Virginia is because of how weak the ACC was. Because there was only really three teams that were good. It was Duke, and then Virginia finished second, and then North Carolina.
When
So
they were
other
fully healthy.
yeah, and it's like, so I don't really know how to gauge how good Virginia is. They've won eight of their last 10 games, so they've been on a pretty good win streak, or not win streak, but they've been doing pretty good with their two losses both coming to Duke. One was at Duke where they got crushed, but I mean, it's tough to win in Cameron. And then they almost beat Duke in the ACC championship game. I think this team could go one or two ways. I think they could be a sneaky team that could really take people by surprise. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they were to lose like first or second round. Like they're just that unpredictable of a team. I do have Virginia winning this matchup. Um, but yeah, very, very unpredictable team. They're in their last 10 games, like I was saying, their wins are against Miami, Florida, who's a tournament team, NC State tournament team, NC State again, and Miami again. So I mean, yeah, I they're just tough to gauge. But
Yeah.
anyways, moving on to Kentucky versus Santa Clara.
This is where Kentucky goes home. I'm taking Santa Clara over Kentucky. Santa Clara was pretty competitive in the WCC. They gave Gonzaga a run for their money. I can't remember if they beat them or not, but they gave them a run for their money. The game that I briefly watched, I did watch them play two games before that. Once in the regular season, I watched one of their games late, and then one of their games in the WCC tournament, and I think they looked pretty good. Oh, I watched them when they beat St. Mary's. That was the game that I like watched from start to finish. They looked pretty good in that game. They had some good guard play, and they were pretty good on defense. I think this Kentucky team is very overrated. I mean, I guess they're not overrated, but very inconsistent, I would say. They get blown out by a lot of good teams that they play, and then sometimes they'll like randomly sneak in there and beat like a tournament team or something like that. But they paid this team millions of dollars. I think they're one of the highest paid teams in the country, and they severely underperformed. And I don't think Kentucky fans are too happy with Mark Pope. And I think they're just really not gelling as a team. I don't think there's a lot of team chemistry in there, and they just kind of when I do watch them, it just seems like they're all over the place playing iso ball, and they're not very physical on defense. Michigan State kind of bullied them when we played them earlier this year. So I'm going to take a slight upset and take Santa Clara over Kentucky.
Yeah, so I also have Santa Clara over Kentucky. I think pretty much the only reason Kentucky's in this tournament is by name alone. Their one win in the last 10, so they have four wins in the last 10 games. The one win that saved their season was against Vanderbilt, who's a five seed. They beat them 91 to 77. But in that 10 game stretch, they had some bad losses. They lost to Auburn, who's not a tournament team. They lost, well, I guess they lost to Texas A&M, who's also a 10 seed. They lost to Georgia too. I mean, Florida three times in the past 10 games. It was 83, 92, 85, or 84, 77, and 63, 71. So, I mean, their wins are against LSU, Missouri, Vandy, and South Carolina, which is only one tournament team. uh, I just think this is like you said, overrated team in a way. I genuinely don't think they should have made the tournament, to be honest with you. That they just yeah, very underwhelming season for Kentucky. So
Yeah,
which kind of sucks because it makes our win in the beginning of the season against them look kind of weaker. But I
yeah,
mean, it doesn't really matter anymore considering we're in the tournament and seeding's done and everything. But so moving on to Iowa State and Tennessee State.
yeah. I'm just going to quickly say Iowa State. I think they win this game by a lot. Don't know anything about Tennessee State, but I know Iowa State's really good, and they're playing really good right now. So give me Iowa State.
So I believe both of us had Michigan versus St. Louis.
Yep. Uh, this one will be a fun game to watch just to see Robbie Avila match up against Michigan's bigs. I want to see what like he kind of can do against bigger competition. I just remember him giving Michigan State a run for their money a few years back, and he was fun to watch because he kind of moves like Jokic in a way because he's like a bigger, bigger, kind of stockier guy, and he's just kind of funny to look at. But he can also like he's a good playmaker, and he can step out and shoot, and he can do some stuff in the post. So it'll be interesting to watch against all of Michigan's big guys. But at the end of the day, I just don't think they're a good enough team to really give Michigan a run for the money. Maybe it's close in the first half or something like that, but I still think Michigan will win this game by double digits pretty easily. Don't do it.
I
Oh my god.
I am picking St. Louis for this game.
Oh my god.
Based
You're so
on
petty. You're so petty.
no, the reason why earlier this season when they lost to Wisconsin, Wisconsin absolutely shot the lights out. They could not miss that entire game, right? And that was one of the reasons they won. They shoot 36% from the three-point line on the season. I think if St. Louis could have that perfect game that Wisconsin had against Michigan, well, and they shoot 40%, so they shoot better. They're a better three-point shooting team than Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not that bad of a shooting team. I think under the right circumstances, and if they make their shots, they have a chance to win this game. And obviously, I'm a little petty too, but uh,
I'm here
I
for it
think
though.
I think St. Louis could potentially have what it takes if they hit their shots and play perfect, which they will. They will. They will play
I'm
perfect.
here for it, man. I would love a
Send them
Romeo
back
Cinderella
to the slums of Ann Arbor.
just
Um,
to end their season when they're like, oh, we're the best Big Ten team of all time to ever, blah blah. You know?
I'm
Yeah, okay.
not even entertained.
Yeah.
Anyways, next I believe we both had Akron versus Bama.
Yeah. Uh Akron, regardless of Aiden Holloway not being there, I don't think they beat Alabama. Alabama, like I said, we talked about LeBaron Philon, great player, and they have other pieces around them. Alabama's just always been a high scoring team, high octane offense, and I just don't think a MAC school is going to be able to keep up with that. So just give me
Yeah.
Alabama.
So I know I talked my stuff about Bama earlier and their uncertainty on what's going to happen and the distractions and everything. However, if I am correct on the matchup and they do get paired up with Akron, I think they do go to the Sweet 16. However, if it were to be Texas Tech versus Bama, I would pick Texas Tech over them. But in this particular matchup, I will stick with Bama going to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
And then moving on to which we both had, Tennessee and Virginia.
Yeah. This one I can kind of see going either way. Just because I think Tennessee's a pretty inconsistent team, but when they're on, they can beat some good teams. Um, and then Virginia, it's kind of tough to read just because the competition that they've played all year, and when they played like guys like Duke, they lose. Um, so I don't know. It's tough to read. I can see this game going either way, but I do have Virginia winning this game to move on to the Sweet 16.
All right. So oh, before I go in my prediction, Howard did just beat UMBC by 3 points.
Oh
Um,
man, not the
the
goal.
UMBC guy had a look to tie the game at the it was like at the logo, and it was a really good look, and he completely bricked it, completely bricked it. But Howard snuck that one out after they were up 10 from like the 12-minute mark on, so they will be playing Michigan. Um, However, yeah, I like this Virginia team. Tennessee has been pretty inconsistent all year. Yeah,
It
I,
seemed like Tennessee was like every time that they were ranked, it'd be like from 25 to
yeah.
22. Then they would lose. Then they'd win a couple games, get back in. Then they were just like dropping in and out of the poll all year long.
Yeah. I kind of look at them the same way I look at Kentucky. I mean, obviously I would hold Kentucky to higher standards based on how much they paid for the roster and like the brand that they
The
bring and
brand,
the
yeah,
culture
for
that they
sure.
have. I
Mhm.
would definitely put Kentucky as a higher standard. But I do look at Tennessee pretty similar this season in terms of play on the court. and kind of how they kept bouncing in and out of the top 25, had some pretty bad losses with some decent wins sprinkled in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Virginia is going to win this game. Moving on to Santa Clara and Iowa State.
Yeah. Santa Clara had a cute win against Kentucky, but there's no shot they're beating Iowa State. So just to keep
Agreed.
it short and sweet, give me Iowa State.
Agreed. And then for you, this would be Michigan versus Bama, and for me, it'd be St. Louis versus Bama.
Damn, that's gonna be it. Okay. Yeah. Regardless of whether or not Alabama has Aiden Holloway or not, unfortunately, as much as it pains me, I will take Michigan in this game just because I think they're just as good, if not better, offensively than Alabama, and they have like a top 2 or 3 defense in college basketball this year. I don't think Alabama has the bigs whatsoever to match up with the 3 Michigan bigs, and I think LeBaron Fallon's going to do half. And if Andrew Holloway plays, they're going to have to do the bulk of the scoring because their bigs are not going to be able to do anything in the paint against Michigan. So it pains me, but give me Michigan to move on to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I mean, they could have a shot if Morrow actually gets punished for his dirty plays, but we know that'll never happen. Um, So based on my matchup with St. Louis and Bama, um, like I said, it's kind of dependent. If it were to be Michigan versus Bama, I think Michigan would beat Bama. However, I think Bama gets lucky this tournament. They got 13 seed in the first round. They got blessed with the MAC school in the second round. They get blessed again with the 9 seed in the Sweet 16, and I think they move on to the Elite Eight. I think it's going to be a tough, I think it's going to be tough. All the games they will have will be tough. But I do think Bama makes it to the Elite Eight based on luck, friendship and luck.
On luck.
So that would make our next Elite Eight game Virginia versus or Sweet 16 game Virginia versus Iowa State.
Yeah, give me Iowa State in that game. I think they're just playing really good basketball right now. I don't know if you saw how crazy of a game Milan Momcilovic had for them against Arizona in the or in the conference semis, I believe. Him and Del Orso from Arizona. I just like watching that game. It was literally back and forth, back and forth. They were just trading threes. Momcilovic is probably up there with like one of the best shooters in the country, and he's just balling out this year. And they have a great defensive guard and scoring guard in Taman Lipsey. I can't think of his first name. I was trying to look at it real quick, but they have a big who plays, I think, like 3 through 5, depending on what if they want to go big or small. Is something Jefferson. I can't remember his first name, but he's a really good like 3 level big guy. He can step out and shoot if he needs to, and he's good in the post. I think they're just a really good overall good team all around, great defensively, great offensively, and I think Iowa State moves on and gets past Virginia to meet Michigan in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, so one of my favorite things about Iowa State, it's kind of similar to what I had to say about Houston, is their defense. They have a very good defense, and they give up about 66 points per game. Um, I just overall like it. They average about 38 points in the paint, and yeah, I just think that they're just more talented than Virginia, and their defense is really good, and I think that they'll get past Virginia by like 6 points to 8 points.
Yeah, so I found it real quick because I'm bad at names, but Joshua Jefferson was the one that I was talking about.
Mm,
That is really good. But yeah.
yeah. So then that would make our Elite Eight for you, Michigan versus Iowa State, and for me, Bama versus Iowa State.
Yep. Goodbye, scum. Goodbye, scum. You are not going to the Final Four. You are gone and out of here. Give me Iowa State over Michigan. Like I said, I really like Iowa State as a team. They've been playing really well recently, even though they had a close loss against Arizona recently. They were a shot away from winning that game, and it was back and forth the whole time. It was one of the better games of the college basketball season this year. But yeah, like I said about Momcilovic, she's averaging 17 points a game, and he is shooting 49% from the three, almost 59% with the amount of threes he is shooting all season long. But he's shooting 49% from three and 51% from the field. He's just balling out this year. He probably played his way into, a first round pick in the NBA because he's got size on him and he can really shoot the ball. And the NBA loves 3-point shooting and he's big. So he probably earned himself a spot in the NBA. And then, like I said, Joshua Jefferson, 6'9". He's a little bit undersized. Maybe if you wanted to play the five, but he's a good like 3 or 4, and he can stretch the floor. He also averages 17 points a game, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1.7 steals and a block a game. So he's an all around really good player for them, and he can step out and shoot the three as well. He shoots 35% from three at 6'9", so that's pretty good. And then Tamin Lipsey, about 13 and a half points a game. He's a really good defender. He's probably definitely the team's best perimeter defender. So I see a guy like him locking down Elliot Cadeau. I think you'll see Joshua Jefferson matched up with either Yaxel or Damar, whatever the game dictates. And then I think Milan Momcilovic would be a mismatch for one of their wings because he's a guy that's running around the arc like Steph Curry, and he can put up any shot when he sees the rim. He can make any shot. So I like Iowa State in this game to move on to the Final Four and get Michigan out of here.
Yeah, so to add on to Iowa State's defense that I was talking about, they average 19 points off of turnovers per game. So that speaks
That's
volumes.
yeah.
Yeah, how good their defense is. And talking about their offense, they average 81 points per game. So they're beating their opponents like based on how much points they're giving up and averaging scoring close to 15, 20 points every game. But yeah, based off the defense alone and their high offensive power, I have Iowa State going to the Final Four as well.
All right. So I think we still only have one Final Four team that is different because I have Arizona, Florida, and Iowa State, and then yours is. Uh,
Arizona, Houston, and Iowa State.
oh wow! So you have three Big 12 teams in the Final Four right
Yeah, I
now.
didn't even realize that. I
See,
might
that's
have
what I
to
was.
adjust that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's one of the main reasons I picked Florida originally. Because originally I was going to be like, yeah, let's go Houston, Iowa State, Arizona. I looked at, I was like, there's no way they get three out of the Big 12. But the Big
Yeah.
12 has been so top heavy. Like, it wouldn't surprise me. It's just unlikely because it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even put that together until you
Yeah.
said something. I
I
I
just like
really
those
like
teams so
those
much.
teams though.
Yeah, it's
Like
tough.
those teams have been pretty dominant. They've been playing each other all year, toughening each other up, and I don't know. Maybe I'll keep it, maybe I won't. It's tough, man. It's really tough.
But I like the Final Four though that we put together. Especially neither of us have the Michigan Scums in there, but they very well could make it. But I don't think so. I think it's crazy you still have St. Louis beating them, but it is what it
Hey,
is.
bro, anything's possible. You never think nine seed's ever going to beat a one seed till it actually happens.
I'm
And
here
it's
for
happened
it.
in years past. So,
All righty. Well, with that being said, that does it for the Midwest region. The last one we have left is the Spartans region with the East region. So we will get that out to you guys at some point tomorrow. But yeah, stay tuned for that. And then eventually, once we get all of those out, we will do a brief video discussing our Final Four/national championship picks. But other than that, we will see you guys in the next one and go green.
go wait.